Church doesn't end on Sunday, and neither does the conversation. Welcome to Sundays on Monday, the podcast from First UMC Port St. John, where we take Sunday's message and carry it into your week. Together, we're going to dive deeper into faith, upcoming church events, and how we can live out God's Word every day. Your faith-filled Monday starts right here, because Sunday's message is just the beginning. Welcome back to Sundays on Mondays, the podcast where we talk about Sunday on Monday, or even maybe talk 7 months later.
Yeah, apparently our podcast went on a sabbatical.
A sabbatical that none of us planned.
But to be fair, life happened.
Yeah, a lot of life happened. We had family things, we had church things, we had Via de Cristo things, we even had NASA rocket things.
Yeah, but you also forgot the most important one.
What's that?
You know, you trying to remember how the podcast equipment works.
That's true. Yeah, we spent the last 10 minutes, well, I guess I should correct myself and say I spent the last 10 minutes trying to remember which button was the record button.
If you're listening right now, apparently you found it.
Yep. So first of all, let's get started. If you're still subscribed to this podcast, we want to say thank you, because after 7 months, that's incredible.
It is. It seriously might be one of the greatest acts of faith we've seen recently.
Yep. You guys are very loyal to us.
Or maybe you just forgot how to unsubscribe.
Either way, we're glad you're here. I'm Mick.
And I'm Jobie.
And we're really grateful to be back. These last several months have been full, and I mean full, with family, church life, and serving. And honestly, that's part of the reason this podcast exists. Life gets busy. Faith happens in the middle of real life, not just on Sundays.
But we've been incredibly blessed by our family, our friends, and especially our church friends at First United Methodist Church, Port St. John. And this year is a really special year for our church. This year marks the 60th anniversary of First United Methodist Church of Port St. John. 60 years of ministry in our community. 60 years of people loving God, loving each other, and serving the Space Coast.
Yeah, the church is, well, we're almost as old as the church. Well, you're
No, we are. Careful.
Okay. But you know what's really been cool about celebrating 60 years is seeing some of the old pastors who've been part of the history of our church coming back and to share with us. Recently, we had Pastor Joe McColligan, and he brought a message that really stuck with both of us. Pastor Joe talked about something powerful. He talked about how we are called to be the living water in our communities.
That image is really kind of beautiful. Living water doesn't just sit still. Our life doesn't sit still. But living water flows. It refreshes. It gives life.
And Joe reminded us that the living water of Christ isn't meant to stay inside the walls of the church. It's meant to flow into our families, our neighborhoods, and even our communities. It was a great message.
It was. Sometimes we think that ministry happens only in the big moments. But most of the time, it's really in the small moments, in the kindness, the encouragement, serving, and the showing up.
Yeah, or as you like to remind me often, even just choosing a positive spirit when things are busy or difficult. And, you know, that led me right into something that I've been praying about lately, and that is attitude. You know, your attitude is a choice, and sometimes it can be a hard choice. So choose a positive one.
It really is a choice. And I love that you brought that up today, because that is a conversation we've had a lot over the last few months. It really is. But
positive attitude.
I know. And here's where my thoughts are on it. You have to have a positive attitude even when you're busy, or maybe especially when you're busy, or when you're tired because you're so busy, or when life just gets overwhelming, which, if we're really honest, it has definitely been overwhelming the last several months. But we also have had the privilege of serving in some meaningful ways.
Yeah, not just at our church, but we've both had the opportunity over the last several months to serve on Via de Cristo teams. Recently, we were called to serve on another team, and being part of those weekends and those teams, seeing where people encounter God's grace in such powerful ways is just amazing. I know I'm blessed. I know you're blessed to be part of those teams and share with the Via de Cristo community.
And it is a blessing to serve, but those weekends require a lot of preparation, a lot of meetings, tons of prayer, and lots of planning.
But the amazing thing about those is seeing how people show up to serve with joy. Our men's weekend was recently postponed, but our team is still showing up, tending the nets and serving with joy. Not because they have to, but because they chose to.
I think that's the key word. It's the choose. We choose the bad mood if we choose to. We choose the negativity if we choose. But the reality is we can choose gratitude. We can choose joy. And we can choose service. And I think we can also choose to step back and relax. And I just want to say, we had a very dear man come to me on Saturday night and said something so powerful that Mike and I really haven't been able to get it off our mind. And he said, Jobie, you and Mike, you need to take a Sabbath. You need to take a rest. And I think in some ways, that's something that I want to see us focus on too, is learning how to, yes, serve, yes, choose joy, yes, choose gratitude, but also learn to choose each other.
Absolutely. And I'll say, Pastor Jim, we thank you for that.
Yeah, we really do.
At the team social that we held, you recognized that. It's something we hadn't recognized. And that's what I love about our brothers and sisters in Christ. They can share with us and
hold us accountable. Absolutely.
And Jim, we thank you for that. It is a truth. And as Jobie said, we can choose the gratitude. We can choose the joy. We can choose service. We need to choose each other sometimes. And the truth is, that's the choice. Any one of those choices can change everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We also want to take some time to acknowledge someone that is a huge part of our podcast and our support.
Yep, that's Pastor Emily, and she's been gone, but...
Yeah. If you've listened to our earlier podcast, you know that we talk about messages shared on Sundays and how they hit our hearts. And Pastor Emily has been a big supporter of us continuing this ministry.
Yep, she has. And, for a long time, she kept asking, when are we going to be back on the air? When are we going to be back on the air?
Yeah.
And Pastor Emily, we're here. It's been 7 months and almost a year to the date since we kicked the ministry off. But we're so thankful that you're still supporting us. Your wisdom, your humor, and your heart for the gospel have shaped many of the conversations that we have, Jobie and I have, but also conversations in and outside of our church. And they continue to help us learn and even encourage us to get started again. We're so happy to be relaunching this. The pastors you've brought in during your maternity leave have sparked some interest, and we are looking forward to the series that you're going to be bringing over Holy Week and Easter.
And the thing is, we miss you. And I know I just got to see you this last week, but we miss you. We miss your leadership. But I think the best thing that I've ever seen, this is Mike and I's first experience, as it is a lot of people, where we have a pastor who has a baby and actually fitting in a maternity leave and how we go about doing that. And you've done such a great job of preparing us and preparing our community and bringing in just the right people at just the right time. And it wasn't even just Pastor Steve and Pastor Dan and Pastor Joe who have led our church before, but even some of the other people that you brought in, like Pam McMillan. What a blessing. Not once, but twice she's blessed this church and really, really developed relationships within our church in just that short time. And I plan on considering her, if not part of our church, because she goes elsewhere, she is part of our Port St. John community, and she's going to be in our life for a while. But I love that you have this time to blend this amazing baby into your fabulous family already. And I know you're loving every moment. Well, maybe except when Ethan isn't quite sure when the right time to sleep is. But I love that we are watching your family grow. And I love that you're taking that time and making that time just special for you and your family. I know that we've seen pictures, but I'm telling you, little Ethan is so incredibly precious and has a old man grumpy face like I've never seen at times. And it's just absolutely fabulous. And I am so grateful how Meredith has just taken to being a big sister, because just in case y'all didn't know, it's all her baby. That's Ethan's hers. So we're excited for you, but definitely go love on that family for just a little bit longer, and then we'll have you all back again.
Yeah, and you brought up the pastors he brought in. Pam McMillan has been, all the pastors have been great, but as the listeners out there, some of you know, some of you don't know, but we've had some equipment give its life to Jesus for Pam. And Pam, just so you know, we were able to repair it. It's back working. Everything's good. Jesus blessed us. God saved it. But you're always welcome. You are, as Jobie said, you're considered part of our family. Come back anytime and share the message with us. We know that God has blessed your heart with service. But you also said about how Pastor Emily prepared us and organized and prepared her, I'll say, quote unquote, fill-ins. But that's the beautiful thing about faith communities, that the seeds are planted by great leaders and they continue to grow even when those leaders are not there or present. And that's what Emily's done. She has planted those seeds and prepared us well. We love that she's had some time to spend with family, but she has kept this church moving forward. God has blessed her. God has blessed us. And we are just so thankful for her leadership.
And I really love, too, the fact that you had so many members of our congregation jumping in to do announcements and to do prayers and all sorts of things. And I think that's been another way that you've been growing a lot of us, because some of those people were not so comfortable on a microphone. But they did it.
I was not comfortable up there on the microphone.
Somebody said to me, boy, Mike likes to talk, doesn't he? Yeah, he does.
No.
But I really appreciate everything that you've done. We're just grateful for all the ways that you've continued to lead this church during your time off, quote unquote, and keep that church front and center, celebrating God, and of course our 60 years of serving Him, sharing our church with all those previous leaders as well as others in the community. We really thank you, Pastor Emily. You rock.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are looking forward to you coming back Palm Sunday and being with us in Holy Week. We are so glad. So as we start to wrap things up, we are so excited to relaunch this podcast, but I've been sitting here thinking how we sum this up and what we're feeling as we get going again. And it would be this, right? That faith isn't just something we hear on Sunday. It's something we choose every day.
We choose how to respond to life. We choose how we treat people. We choose how we serve.
And when we choose faith, we choose gratitude, we choose joy, we become that living water that Pastor Joe talked about. Water that can refresh others. That living water that brings hope to other people. That water that reminds people of God's love and who we are of God's people.
So here's our challenge, because we can't end a podcast without giving you some sort of challenge. So here's our challenge.
Well, is it a challenge for them or
well, it's for all of us.
I think we write it for us, but we also want them to do it. Right? Yeah.
Ask yourself one simple question. Where can I be living water this week?
Yeah, maybe it's encouraging someone. Maybe it's just helping a neighbor. Maybe it's volunteering at church. Or maybe it's volunteering somewhere else in need. But you choose. God's calling you to be that living water.
Or maybe it's simply choosing gratitude instead of frustration. Small choices can make a big difference.
Yeah, and that's a big challenge for all of us. I know for me, choosing the gratitude and choosing the positive attitude has been a choice I've had to make over the last several weeks. And I've been so thankful that I have. And just seeing how it applies to different people in the lives that I touch every day. And I'm thankful that you remind me of that as we get going again. But, as we relaunch this podcast, again, we said we were excited. It's been fun so far. It's been a little shorter than normal, but we're looking forward to some great things in the next few months with the podcast. We have some new opportunities. You might hear from some special guests. or some other things that we're doing with Pastor Emily. And so it is really fun to be back. And you know what? It feels really good to say this again. We want to thank you for listening to Sundays on Mondays.
We really are glad to be back.
And we promise not to take another 7-month break.
Well, unless life happens again.
Which it probably will,
yeah.
But we'll choose to do what we want to do.
Yeah. And we also will keep choosing joy.
So family, until next time,
Grace and peace.
This is Sundays on Monday, brought to you by First UMC Port St. John. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and stay connected with us throughout the week. Have thoughts, questions, or prayer requests? We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep the faith, live with purpose, and remember, Sunday's message is just the beginning. See you next episode.